So what we had led to is the question that Rabbi Tzarich Lahavin was that the Magid's word that the Bisgabras Koich HaRuchni. So then the Kohen Gadol is able to connect to Shem Havayik Iksova, Shem Ha'etzem, but Ruchnis is also a Metzius, a Yishavos. So the teretz is that Shem Ha'etzem is Nimna Nimnois, which can, therefore, when connected to effect the Chibur of Afachim, that he remains a Metzius Gashmi, and a Metzius Ruchni, and suffused with Elikus. And that's the Pirush of the, I'll just mention again, because this is the theme of the Maamerim. I should point out, maybe we should have learned the second Maamer, Basi L'Gani of Yud, when was it?
Chaf Aleph.
Yeah,
Aleph.
But the second one was Matzoi Shabbos Kodesh, and this is Friday night, Lil Shabbos Kodesh. It's the same mind, but much more barichus, much more mavur. But and I should learn that one to explain this one. But Akoponim, we should do everything that Rebbe said. We should learn it all. There's three Maamerim. The Maamer Shabbos. It also continues this whole thing of Eilav V'Leilim B'Doisa, which lies at the heart of the Maamer. So this is the Vadi said the Alter Rebbe, and just to review again, the Chiddush of Chassidus, the Pardes. First is the Pardes and the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. The Pardes was Rabbi Moishe Kadavero. This is the Rebbe of the Ramak, the Rebbe of the Arizal. So he represents Kol Yinei Kabbalah. So the Pardes says that when you dive into the Shemus, so what's the pshat? Shemus. We don't mean the names per se locked into the name. We mean the Eretz Mislabish and the Keli. Gewaldige Chiddush, about repeating the sense of it all. And then came the Baal Shem Tov with a deeper Chiddush, a deeper Isgalus, that it's the highest in the Keli itself. Now this Taich in the Baal Shem Tov, we actually misinterpreted originally. And that's not in the error either, because this Taich that we're teaching the Baal Shem Tov this way is Derech Tzrisacha, a whole Ariches and a whole Raya, a whole Eichacha, which I see that it brings in the second Maamer Basi L'Gani. Because just reading the Baal Shem Tov's words simply, it also sounds like the Pardes in some higher level. But anyway, he's Mechiach that it means the Chais of the Keli. That's the Tzemach Tzedek's word. And the Rebbe's beer on that is, because the Chais of the Keli is rooted higher than the Oir. As we explained, the Koich HaGvul, in the Eir itself, the Koich HaGvul is deeper and more atmistic expression than Koich HaBli. That was the Baal Shem Tov. So part of this Kabbalah, Baal Shem Tov, and then the Gewaldige Chiddush of Chassidus, Rebbe is a Mashiach, and the Rebbe, nothing greater, is that it goes on Atzmus, Mamish, the Shem is Atzmus, Ani Nikra, but it's the Ani, Lefi Maisai, and he's Mechaber Iyu with Garmoihi. It's the Baal Shem Tov, in other words, comes out like this. The Pardes says it goes on Ihu, him. I'm sorry, Chayohi, Iyu v'Chayochad, Iyu v'Garmoichad, says the Zayin. He and his life force is one, that's Oir. He and his Kelim are one, that's Iyu v'Garmoichad, that's the Kelim. Without the Pardes, we're talking into the Kelim, Gamarno, the Shemus, Kelim, the hardcore description. We're invoking which is not strange. There's tefillos that invoke and address Malachim, period. And send Yimon Shlichus, Achnisu Dimayseinu. Take our prayers and bring them before the heavenly throne. So here, without the Pardes, it's the Keli. The Pardes says it's the Oyer. So the Pardes is stressing the Chayohi. The Baal Shem Tov says it's the Chais and the Keli that's Garmohi, even deeper. And The Alter Rebbe Atzmos is both. Ninan im Nois. Here, v'chayoyi, it's all him. Both chayoyi and garmoyi, oir and keli. It's the last words. The last words of the first chapter, first paragraph. I say, so that clear. It's kind of technical. You have to get it technically, but then we can try and understand it. So again, pre-pardes, kelim. But that's not a love. Zokte pardes, we mean chayohi. The oiretz mislabesh and the kelim. The Baal Shem Tov
says chayoyi. He says chayoyi, or he says garmoyi.
No, chayoyi. That's the oiretz mislabesh. Chayoyi. Let's get the language clear too. This is the statement in Zohar. He and his light is one. He and his kelim are one. His causations are one. So the part of this points to the chayoyi, the oiretz and the keli. That's when we talk keli, shemus, we mean the chayis, the oir, which is the oir poshet basically. It's mislabish, like the moshel, like the Ramak Taka brings, the same water, the pardes. He brings the famous moshel of a colored glass. Water, which is poshet in different colored glasses. So you're looking and you're seeing a different color water or light. I think his moshel is water. But it's only because of the glass that it appears differently. But the earth itself is poshet. So the pardes is saying that when we're davening and we were invoking different shemus, we mean the chai is the oil which is poshet. So his kvetch is chayohi, the oil. The Baal Shem Tov, bigger chiddush, garmohi, his causations, which means his kelim. Groma means the cause, but it means the kelim. We're addressing the garmohi. That's a bigger chiddush because it's an atmis the oil. He means the chayis in garmohi. The chayis of the garmohi themselves, of the kelim, which is a deeper oil than the oil stam. Because Eira Bligvul in the Eira itself is deeper than Eira Gvul is really deeper than Eira Bligvul. As we explained, his pashtus is natural, containment is unnatural. And the Baal Shem Tov, the Alter Rebbe's chiddush is it's all one. The chibur of Ihu and Garmoihi, all the way. Him with Eir, with Keli, with everything. Tzarchin still a little bit, but that seems to be the call saying it. So the bottom line is, Lefi Maisai, Ani Nikra, notwithstanding the different mishalf and the changing of the Maisai, it's all him. In all of the expressions. Pshitus Atmos. So the conclusion was, in the same way that is in all the shemus, it's also in Shem Tzvoketz, which is now the subject. The point is going to be that in Shem Tzvoketz, it's even more bisgalus than in the other names. It's true of all the names. Keil, which is Chesed, and Elikim, which is Gvura. This principle we just stated now, that it goes, that a love is Atzmos, even as he's expressed in this very finite Gilui, this very descriptive and agenda-specific Gilui. It's true of all the shemus, but we're going to see that in this gufa, the Gilui of Atzmos is more in Shem Tzvokes, which is in a Milchama, as we learned in the previous, in the Figure of Besois. The general idea is that there's two kinds of Milchama. When the Milchama is such that there's a Menagid that opposes the very existence of the kingdom, of the state, then that's Ma'erid. You have to battle this person. It's Ma'erid Mitzvah Nitzachim, and that is a more transparent Giloi, direct Giloi expression of the Etzem of the Melech, of the Godel, so much so that Mashlich Chayiv Mineged, he throws himself into the battle, all the Eitzeres and himself as well. That's the general picture, which we learned in the Fidik of his Maamer. Tremendous nuance an explanation in this Maamer and more so in the next one. It's Bekitzer here, but Matzai Shabbos Dike Maamer, much more. Let's begin our journey. Could you hear properly? The microphone was far away. You heard okay? Okay. So we started the Izvav already yesterday. So let's not repeat that again. Let's go get into the... Let's start with Inyan. The point that was Inyan was like 10 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 lines from the top. He just established that the Inyan of Nitzochen applies really only to a Godel. An adult, but even with an adult, he said, the greater the Godel, the more Midas HaNitzochen. Meaning that by him, as he goes on to say, when he is opposed, so because he's a Godel and everything is Negeya, so therefore his Midas HaNitzochen he can't be bought off. A cotton, a lesser person can be bribed, can be bought off, can be distracted. Every parent knows a child wants something, and with a toikef, so you either you give it, if you don't give it, then the best way is to distract with something else. But a godel can't be distracted, and the greater the godel, the less distraction, and the ultimate godel, the melech, since everything he wants is negate to the Medina, if he's a true melech. Every desire is negated to the Melucha, so there's nothing that's going to dissuade him. So let's continue. You have the place there. The Seder here, the Hashem Tov already, the Alter Rebbe, not the Mittel Rebbe. Mavur, Gam B'Mayim is B'Ktzara, and this Maamer of the Fitik Rebbe, he explains it briefly. We learn, there's two Yonim in Milcham Aleph, Shalal V'Lovus. One agenda of war is to amass fortune. And the second level of Milchama is not about adding wealth, etc., or territory, but that things should be as the Melech wants. In other words, because it's an opposition.
Shouldn't that be first?
Oh, yes, first that it's much deeper. Yes, in that sense that it's
Correct.
Deeper. But he says it's secondary because it's less common. It's not common that the such a Melchama that's a menagid that opposes the whole mitzias of the Melucha, and that the Melech has to be loichem b'chol inyonav. Usually wars are about simply expanding the wealth and the commonwealth, the territory, the power, the influence. That's what you mentioned it second. It's deeper and it's less common.
That's why it's mentioned in Yud Shvat, because that was the whole battle against not the Rebbe's wealth, but about the Rebbe's Mulucha.
Yeah, that's the whole point. The whole point of the Maamer is that we're Erev Mashiach, and we are the Derashavi, and we are the foot soldiers, and here everything is at stake. Everything, all of history, everything is at stake now to achieve the final victory. That's the Rebbe said, Chav Ches Nissen, everything's Lehebla V'Larik, he said. I mean, shocking statement. It's all nothing. It's all nothing. Everything that Rebbe accomplished is all nothing. Because now it's come to the point of the bottom line of the whole Melucha, the whole Kavanah Pnimius. And if the whole Kavanah Pnimius isn't achieved, then everything else is meaningless. It's taka meaningless. So here's Mashta Chayiv Meneged, and here all the Eitras are given, and then the king gives himself. As the Rebbe said, when you get the Fidik Rebbe, and for us too. Yeah, so let's continue. So the difference is Shalom or Velovos, Boz, a war which is about getting booty and treasures. Al Pitam V'das. It's a cheshbon. The risk factor, how much you're willing to lose to gain. because things are okay. You just want to make it better. So if you want to make things better, things are all right, then it's with a cheshbon. But if you think it's not about things are all right, let's make it better. It's the rotzen of the melech is not realized. That's all different milchama. It's a limited milchama. He has to estimate how much beauty can be achieved. If he to that degree, the person will fight to the degree of how much he expects to get and the value of what he expects to get. Given even a lower minister, again, that's exactly right. We don't mean cotton here is in a minor versus an adult. That means a bigger person, a smaller person. Okay. So Sar cotton, so a minister, for him is not negeya, that's not his whole mitzias, is not the mitzias of the melucha. It's like he's like the seichel. If the king in his cabinet is one person, so the king is the nekud atzmius of the person, and the various ministers are the seichel, the various midas. So if it's a reasoned and calculated agenda, then this can be entrusted to and even governed by a sar cotton, a minister, and even a smaller, lower minister, not even a high up. But when the milcham is because of nitzochen, because again, this is negate to the whole mitzias of the Medina, which is what the Rotzen HaMelech is all about. He has no other Rotzen. This is no limit. The Kaman is explained later. It's only by the Melech is taka this true milchama. By him is the true nitzochen. Why? Because only by him is negate the Medina. Ein melech b'layam, his whole mitzias is the people. His whole mitzias is the melucha. And when that's being opposed and that's threatened, it's negate to etzem mitzius.
Maybe you can touch the thing differently. Only by a king that Netzachen is negayah to him, not by any king. By a king that Netzachen is negayah to him and not the money. Then it.
No. That's not. That's not the pshat. I mean, he means a true king. The moshel here is a emes melech.
So basically, a true king is the only one who really can have the.
And the truth is, this is true of any king. You don't have to be a righteous or virtuous king.
But certain kings want money.
He want this also. No, this king can also. But that's not he's not saying that this king is not shaykhs to that. But he'll entrust that to the Sarim. When it's the get, that's Melucha, that's when he takes the helm. You follow?
Yes.
So the Shtaushalis is also Elikus. And there's times when the Eibishter relates to his creation via Shtaushalis. But there's a time out of Mashiach. It's always been that way, undercurrent. But we were fighting for survival and other agendas. Now the agenda is not survival. Now the agenda is Bias and Mashiach. So now was the time of the Milcham. In the course of history, I just put this in different words. This is the uniqueness of Deir HaShvi. In the course of history and in the history of Chabad, there were all kinds of agendas. All leading up to this. Become a chassid, become a lamdan, all kinds of avodas. The agenda of Deir HaShvi is one thing. The kavon el yonah, the kavon pnimius. To get to that, there's all of this, build up. To create it, to build an army like this, it's a whole process and a whole series of mini agendas and goals to be achieved. Even to produce the soldier, he's got to go through all kinds of training, and there are goals there. And part of that is also to go to amass booty and need resources, conquer the next guy and take his money, so we can build our army. So these are all agendas. Achieved, done, thank you. Deir HaShvi is no more agenda in terms of progression. It's the kavon el yonah for the whole thing to begin with. That's the Metzius of the Melucha. That's our generation. We'll see later again the beautiful story of the Bezushir. So appropriate, as I said, to be telling stories about him. And now in Basi L'Gani, which is all about Milchama, his whole language is always about the Melucha, the Melech, Milchama, the front line. That's how they wants us to live, to be. The Bezushir didn't grow up in 770. He came Tishrei. He got it. He got it. Even being in Eretz Yisrael. They didn't hear the Rebbe either. Hookups, and it was from letters, memorim. He got it. As we told the story, there are those that toshmanikis and tochazinikus, those that hear and those that see it. They get it. You hear about it. It's nice. Okay, weiter. So the kasha milchama mitzad inyan nitzachan. So when the milchama is at stake here is nitzachan, not expansion, not growth, but nitzachan, victory, do or die, as it were. Then the king squanders, as it were, throws it out. His treasures and the treasures of his forebearers, the treasures of kings amassed over the generations. These are psukim he's quoting from Mishlei. A great treasure of Anoim and beautiful and pleasant. Therefore they are hidden and sealed, tamid always, and not accessible. Like a treasure should come as that is hidden and sealed. So when there comes the joy of his only child, is his chasana, or similar kind of simcha, as oz megala melech l'choles, he shows it. It's on display. He doesn't spend it, but he shows it. But he's not squandering it. He's not, it's there to be seen and then locked up again. So there are moments, glimpses of the simcha of b'nai yechidai. But when it's the milchama, that the victory should be as the melech wants. Because again, what does the melech want? His rotzen is the embodiment of the whole melucha. The melech and the Amma one. The rotz of the melech is neshamas Yisrael in the nimshal. And especially if what he's facing is a rebellion, not just someone who is opposing, not letting the rotzen, putting roadblocks to the king's rotzen. That's already me'oyer midas hanitzachem. Holding up bias and Mashiach when you're delaying it, it's intolerable for the melech. And boy, did we see that by the Rebbe. Examples come to mind, but complete, just intolerance to the core, shook to the core of his being, when things would be said and done that they were just patently a roadblock to Mashiach's coming, dividing Eden, etc. Never mind a roadblock, but it's an opposition, which we saw actually opposing. Then all stops are pulled. Is that the expression? And his mevazes, all the eiteres, belishim medida klal, and there's no limit at all. It's that the victory should be achieved. Because Nitzachan is mushrish in etzem nefesh, because etzem nefesh is the very existence. Nefesh means the whole I am, the whole Metzius. So true Nitzachan is about this, about the expression of the true Metzius. And when threatened, then all stops are pulled. So that's what we are. This is the Rashvi. The true Metzius of a Yid is one with the Eibush to heal Mata, Mashiach. That's the true Metzius. And that should embrace the Guf and all the Pratim and the whole world should reflect that. So this is the battle. And for this, Bizbus Oitris and everything else, that we, the foot soldiers on the front line, are given. So therefore, when it comes to the Etzeman Nefesh, the final Milchama, for the whole purpose of it all, the whole raison d'etre of the whole Melucha, of the Melech and of the Am, says Mavazvitz the Oitris. Not only that, Al Yisaydim Mizesh, Mesak and Gam Eschayav, the king endangers his own life, Lamed Bekishem Milchama, and he stands in the throes of the battle. This is because the Midas HaNetzach is rooted deeper than the conscious manifested faculties of the Nefesh, Seichel and Midas and everything else. Therefore he endangers, he doesn't sleep and he stands and he fasts. So this is the marshal of the Melechness, and we understand the way it is the Maila. Binyan Shem Tzvokos. Shobesvidus HaNetzach, which is Shem Tzvokos, he brought from the Sefer, was it called? The early Kabbalah Sefer, that identified that it's Tzvidus HaNetzach. Netzach, Yesoid Netzach. Sheshem Zeh Mushish Ba'atzmos, that this is directly rooted, this mid is directly rooted in Atzmos, and only comes to the fore when the Etzeman Nefesh is stirred, is Negeya, and Ukanal b'Moshe Shanetzach Mushe B'Etzeman Nefesh V'Lachem Megalim Milamayla. So therefore, Shem Tzvokos is a Shem via which is revealed. He said him is there moreover. Wait 1 second, let's get the flow. Shem Zemushe Ba'atzmos V'Lachem Megalim Milamayla. Mid-sentence. And therefore, there's revealed from above. You said not just revealed, Shemavazvazin, there's Gilui, which is like a Seideli Gilui. But then there's Bizbos, it's just thrown out, cast out. It's Kola, it's just pouring and pouring and pouring. It's Kola, it's an island b'Yosef, all the deepest treasures. In order to achieve victory over L'Umazeh. Let's begin with Bira Inyan. Or Bira Inyan Zayin, yeah, what is with me? Yeah, or Bira Inyan, okay, we'll start this now. Let's first understand what's coming now. Just heads up. Technically, the shame is what belongs where, and then we'll try and understand it as well. Then it says the second Maamer gives us much more as butter, but we've got to get the geography of this right. Which shames belong where? It's a little bit confusing because in the timeline of history, the higher shame comes first, which is really the objective that needs the lower shameless as a stepping. So, but let's try and get it sorted out in our head, and then the hasbara. Biring, the Hinday by Yeshua says as follows. This is the context here is they just crossed into Eretz Yisrael. This is before the fall of Yericho. It's the very beginning, and a Malach appears to Yeshua. Yeshua's not sure what this is. I mean, I'm not going to explain all the pratim here, but Yeshua says, are you for us or against us? Who are you? What kind of shaila is that? He can't acknowledge, it doesn't know what a malach is. Put that aside. But that's his question. And the malach says these words, Loi ki ani sar tzova Hashem. No, he says, not against, but I am the sar, the prince of the hosts of Hashem. Ata Basi, now I have come. He's the ultimate, as what archangel as it's called. Now what's the deal? Now I have come? Maybe it's now I have come. I've come. And Bachal will even say these words, Ata Basi. No, I am on your side. I'm the supreme angel of it's negay here. Sar Tzova Hashem. Invoking the word Tzivis, which is what he's bringing here. Tzvokos. So what's the Ata Basi? So the V'omre Razal says in Medrash, as the Mefarshim explained the Medrash, he meant to say, now I've come, it's a rhetorical question. It's not the first time I'm here. I've been in before. It's only now that I've come. I came to Moshe Rabbeinu, to your teacher, but he rejected me. He didn't want, as this is the whole story of right after the Cheta Egel, where the Eibishter reveals himself to Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Eibishter says, he'll send his angel, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, I want you alone. Elishai Mispala, Moshe davened that the Yidden should be led directly by Hashem himself and not by his Malach. This is right explicit in the Chumash, in Parshas, after Chet Egel, Parshas Kisisa. End of Medrash. Now, so the Malach is saying, but you need me. You don't reject me. Which is kind of a Yerida in Pashtus. Right? As I quoted that Meferish before, that we need to address, we don't have a direct access, we have to address the lower levels, Malachim, etc. This is actually a marker for it. That Yeshua was K'pnei Chama, it was like K'pnei Levana, compared to the moon, not the sun. So the Malach says, don't you play around, you need me, and I'll be with you, and you're conquering Eretz Yisrael. So the end of Medrash. Now the Rebbe's beer, or the Rebbe's commentary. That's why the name Tzvokos doesn't appear in Torah, because Bizman Moshe Rabbeinu, it was ostensibly higher than Shem Tzvokos. This Malach again is Sar Tzva Hashem. Rak b'mei Yeshua sheba Sar Tzva Hashem. But b'mei Yeshua already, it's a lower generation. Now the Shem Tzvokos, Tzva Hashem is coming. Then the Leviim revealed Shem Havaya Tzvokos, the name Havaya Tzvokos, as opposed to Tzivus Hashem. This is critical. The name Havaya appears before the name Tzvokos or after. So we're going to stop here and just going to tell you what's going on. The template is not so clear, but L'chora, this is what he's talking about. There's three levels here. There's the higher level of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is Tzivus Hashem, even though that's referring to Yidden, not referring to the Eibishter at all, hosts of God, but we already established that they're called then because of the connection to Shem Tzvokos. Conclusion, there's a level of Tzivus Hashem, Moshe Rabbeinu's time. Then there's the level of Havaya Tzvokos, that's how the Nevi'im refer to Hashem. And then there's the middle level of Tzvokos itself, the intermediary between the higher level of Tzivus Havaya, the lower level Havaya Tzvokos, and the middle level, the Memutze Tzvokos. That's the geography right now. We're going to pin it in levels. We'll continue B'ez Hashem on Monday and try and explain it. As I mentioned, the second line goes into much more elaboration. So B'ez Hashem, I will learn it. So I'll have the hindsight about to explain this is better.
Wasn't it Chana? Was the first one who was Megala?
Yeah, Chana was the first person that personally called the Eibishter Havaya Tzvokos. Yeah, that's the Nevi'im we're referring to. That's the Navi we're referring to. The Mefarshim explained there that Hashem is called Hashem Tzvokos before that by the Pasuk, but she was the first person to call him that way. She was the first person to call him. But even to call Hashem Havaya Tzvokos is also by the Nevi'im. It's not in Chumash. So there's two things. She's the first one to personally, but even before her, the Psukim mentioned, we find the expression Havaya Tzvokos. That's the Nevi'im Giloi. But then there's the intermediary, the Tzvokos level alone. Again, to be explored Mitzvah Hashem, explain on Monday. What's a little confusing is that Rebbe is going to explain that in order to get to Moshe Rabbeinu's level, this first, you start off Havaya Tzvokos, then Tzvokos, and then Tzvokos Havaya. But in historical order, it's first Moshe Rabbeinu was the highest level was mentioned first. It's not such a big kasha, but that's a little bit confusing, and we'll address it, God willing, when we learn it. Okay.